Well, part 3 has come and gone, and it is time to update our 0% growths playthrough tier list. And I want to emphasize again that because of the way that I consider availability, I'm not penalizing anyone from Storch's army for missing part 3, and I'm not penalizing anyone from Waluyo's army for missing parts 1 and 2. I talked about this in the previous tier list video, but because of the split army, I consider anyone who joins in Waluyo's initial squad to have perfect availability. So basically everyone in this list up until Anissa is considered to have perfect availability. As such, I don't think there's any argument that Waluyo doesn't also belong in S tier. No one here is getting adjusted because they're in their places from part 1 and 2, and they're not getting penalized for the chapters they didn't participate in. Waluyo, easy S tier. It was my strongest unit every chapter, from the first one until the end. And he's the only one who didn't grow at all because he couldn't promote, and he didn't have any skills to gain upon, like, for example, the Swordmaster crit type deal. But he's still, just at base, was an absolute fucking god. He did improve by giving him the speed wings, but I think that was the correct call, giving him the speed wings, and I stand by it. I need him to be able to double things. I need him to be able to quad things with the Brave Bow, if he so desires. So yeah, Waluyo, easy S tier. There's not much else to say. Like, he has a great personal weapon. He has really great combat even without the personal weapon. He's got choices between bows and axes, both of which are good weapon types. He's got a horse. He's got good stats. He's just great. Kusuma, I think she's a role player. This playthrough has made me appreciate her more than any of the growths one have, in terms of just what she can do purely through having the Brave Sword and being willing to fire that button when there's an enemy you want dead. Oftentimes those are mages for me. I really like using it to kill mages. As such, I think she's probably a B tier unit. She performed pretty good for the portion of the game that she performed for. Obviously, like, her stats did not hold up throughout the entirety of part 3, and once we had other people who could potentially use the Brave Sword, it's harder to justify having her be the Brave Sword wielder. But, you know, she did some stuff early on. She did some stuff for the first, like, 5 chapters, and I loved her for that. I love that for her. Ketjut is just a staff support bot. How good is a staff support bot when you only have one staff support bot? Pretty good. I guess she's more than just a staff support bot. She gives Waluyo his crit bonus, too, for their automatic A support. I think that's something that's, like, a little bit overlooked. Being able to just be like, yeah, we'll throw the A support there. Like, it's a powerful thing that she can do, since she's not super worried about where she's positioned combat-wise. Like, obviously she does need to heal people, and that can impact where she wants to position. But I think that her staffing probably lands her in C tier. It's less powerful staffing than, like, Mail, for example. Just sort of the immediate, she's right there example that stands out. But it was relevant. Do we need to talk about Surya? That was an Arcade-esque performance. They have the same hairdo looking at them side by side. He was constantly just being a shelf bot. I like him more than the late joiners in growth's context, because, like, he can potentially grow a little bit. He does have that availability, and the late joiners no longer have the stat lead over everyone that they do in zero growths. But even then, like, Surya's not great. Surya's not great. I don't miss him. He took a steel axe and a hand axe from me. That was rude of him. That was very rude of him. Bulan, solid. Obviously in zero growth, she's less solid than in a growths context. But I think Bulan is quite solid. How much her... I don't know how much her performance is worth, because she did... So I obviously didn't promote her. I don't think she's a great target for promotion in zero growths. I think that hurt her ability to do stuff later on. I think that being able to just be a staff bot is a nice role for her. She definitely contributed a bunch in the first first 3 chapters, and then she didn't really do much in 3.3x. She didn't really do much in 3.4. I'd say she's probably around the same level of Katut in terms of just being a solid role player for a little bit and then outshined afterwards. And I think the only thing that saves Kusuma from going down there is she is on a horse and could do rescue drop stuff, which is useful. Michael is an instant S tier. He's a dancer. I talked about it a lot in the unit review stuff. Dancer, good. Next. Anissa, I think solidly A. Solidly A. Snipers are, or I guess she's only an archer, but archers are very good in Vision Quest. They're all performing better than you would think a low-level, or a mediocre statted archer performs in 0%. But she just has stuff going for her. The spur speed, even more so than in a growth context, spur speed was so helpful. There were so many instances where I would need to spur someone's speed and put her there. The fact she could take a hit, or 2, depending on the enemy type, is very, very useful. The fact that she could wield those Brave Bows and Sky Piercers exclusively for the first 2 chapters, very nice, and then just also had access to them later on, very nice. She's just solid. Very glad that I had her. I don't think she's the best unit in part 3, but she might be the most important one. And that's a weird distinction to make, but I think that the spur speed and the early access to those bows is very important. Even if she's not doing as much as easily as people like Waluyo or Kerr, who I think also has earned a place in S tier. Again, this is just the Part 3 performance, and it's hard to argue that Kier's Part 3 performance was not S tier. Like, if Waluyo was consistently the best unit on our team every single map, Kier was consistently the second best unit, with the exception of his joint map. He was pretty bad on his joint map, and I think that he gets off to a pretty bad start. That map is not great for axe wielders, and it hurts him and Surya, but like, there's a huge space in between them, right? And part of that was the promotion. Promotion bonuses on generals are quite good. However, I think that promotion bonuses on berserkers are like pretty good too, and I don't think that giving that seal to Surya would have made him perform as well as Kier did. It would have made him perform better than he did, but it wouldn't have made him perform as well as Kier did. Kier being able to actually take a fucking hit, not just a fucking hit, like so many hits were dealing 0 damage, 3 damage, even mages he just shrugged off, and then able to punch back hard. This man is a beast. Yeah, enough said. Kier is quite good in Fire Emblem Vision Quest. I'm really happy with his performance. I don't think he's as good on growths as he is in zero growths, but I'm also pretty high on him on growths playthroughs. Kajan, honestly, Charm seems good, but I just couldn't find too many opportunities for it. The final map, there were a lot of instances where Charm was useful, but the rest of the time, maybe there was a combat hero there where 2 damage made a big deal, but oftentimes not. As such, his combat alone probably lands him in C tier. He's available most of the time, although he's in his own little mission with Stina on 3-2. So, yeah, I think he's probably a C tier performance in his part 2, or in his part 3 iteration. His combat was okay. Being on a horse is good. Yeah, I mean, promotion definitely helped him for the final map, and I didn't do any favors by putting it off, because I wasn't sure how seals would work. I forgot that you get handed a fuck ton of seals in 3.5 and 3E, but promotion did definitely help him a lot, so I think I sandbagged him, perhaps, but I think he's a C tier. I still think he's C. Stina was solid. I want to say Stina was probably solidly B. Actually, no. I think Stina was an A tier performance. I think that her combat was always pretty darn good. She was not as bulky or hit as hard as Kier, but she has that extra point of movement. She doesn't fully have the weapon triangle, and she doesn't have the maneuverability of someone like Andon, but she was always just a good flunky. And good flunkies are valuable. Maybe more than a flunky in some instances. 3-3, she's pretty good there. And then 3-5. Yeah, maybe she was, more that I think about it, I think she was probably closer to B tier. She wasn't really, like, one-rounding things in the same way that Kier was, other than, like, I set up a couple of halberd kills for her at one point. She was always quite solid, but it was never, like, outstanding. Underdonk is outstanding, though. I might be flooding the S tier. He's missing for 2 maps. Is that enough to sink him down? I don't think it is. I think he's an S tier unit. I think that he is an S tier unit in 0 growths. I'm not necessarily sure that he's S tier in growths, but he might be. He's still very, very good in growths. Like, his bases alone carry him a lot. Speed and skill need fixing, obviously, but he's quite good. He's quite good. And being the only flyer for the entire segment, the only flyer in the army, means that anytime we have a job that a flyer needs to do, it's gotta be him. And there's quite a few of them. In his join map, obviously makes good use of them. He was just constantly able to weave around once the ballista was gone from 3-5. He helped us get the Darkstone. He helped us get the Killing Edge. He's just quite solid. Mr. Finger Guns himself. Oh my goodness. I mean, he sort of picked up where Bulan fell off, right? But he got to staff, and he did it on harder maps. And I think he's probably B tier because of that. Like, he did some stuff on 3-4, but the big showings were 3-5 and 3-6, where he was consistently, like, he was our second healer that we sort of desperately needed. He was consistently killing enemies, even not armor knights. Yeah, I like Radoslav. I like Mr. Fingerguns, the muscle scholar. I think he did good. I think he was a good boy. Sereni, I'm less high on, honestly. She has the horse, which is helpful, and she has bows. Shooting down wyverns is always going to be a good time. But I'm less high on her than Radoslav. She was a solid role player for enough of the game that I think I can put her in C tier alongside Kajan. Her combat was a little bit better than his, but she didn't have the added utility that he does with Charm for the final map, I guess. And they both can do horse things. Okay, Zakawat. He's only been around for 2 maps. This feels like these guys, right? Like, it feels like them, it feels like him. He's only been around for 2 maps. He's done stuff on those 2 maps. Nate did stuff on those 2 maps. He did a lot of stuff. I think he did more stuff than they did on those 2 maps. I feel like that justifies a C tier. He was very important in 3E. And 3.5, both of which are hard maps. He was quite important to them. Yeah, I don't know. Is he a B tier? He's kind of just Radoslav 2, Electric Boogaloo. They were very similar, but Radoslav has a slight availability lead. And that also meant he could promote he could promote, like, at a time that was fine. The stuff he did on 3-4, while not huge, was meaningful. I think it pushes him over to B and keeps Zakawat at C. Yeah. 2 maps is... He's a big deal on those 2 maps. He was a big deal on those 2 maps, but it's just 2 maps. Yeah, I think he ends up here. Zuzhalaj, kind of the same thing I said with Zakawat. He was a big deal on those 2 maps. As they progress in Part 4, they might earn B tier performance. We shall see. We shall see. And then Batari, I mean, do I need to explain? Did you watch 3E? I do not like this unit. Yeah. Like, she definitely did more for me on that map than Surya did, but Surya probably did more just by shoving for 7 maps straight. Yeah, this seems about right to where I want the Part 3ers. We're getting to the cream of the crop, though. We're getting to some stronger units. So, that will be fun. Stay tuned. And if you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let me know if you are mad at me for letting Surya die. I'll put him in Arcady next to... Ooh, no. There we go. Haircuts next to each other. You can... Oh, no! Ah! I'm so bad at this. Okay, bye.